Hello world! This is Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake, coming to you with a new series called Garde's Gala. This is sort of a spin-off of the Zora Gardevoir tour deck thing that we were doing, but not really. Because first of all, I had this build beforehand. One of my testing partners on Team Same60, Chris D, put it together. I don't want to put his full name out there in case he doesn't want it out there. And I've been modifying it along the way ever since. But it works. I love it. I couldn't make Garde work until I tried Chris's build. So yeah, love it. 2 thumbs up. You'll see it in a minute. But first, reasons that I want to move away from Zoroark. Anyway, well, first, again, how many firsts do we have? I have tournament matches with this one. I played it in the 60cards.net monthly tournament last month, so we have content. We need content to do videos. 2, I ran into lots of problems with Zoroark Garde last week. Basically, I was being Parallel City turn 1, and then Garbotoxin turn 2, over and over and over. And because the Zoroark deck only plays 1 Field Blower, because you can get through your deck as fast as you want and you can puzzle to get anything back, it wasn't working because you couldn't get through your deck if you were Parallel City'd and Garbotoxin'd before you ever got your Zoroarks up. So I made some adjustments to the list we're going to see first, which you'll see second. But before we get into all that, I want to show you a tool that I use when I'm trying to decide what I want to play. And if you're interested, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll make it so you can use it too. I want to go over how I choose which decks I'm going to play. So we'll pull up this handy dandy spreadsheet, and you can see some of the stuff that I track. Once I choose a deck, once I decide a deck is going to be in contention for play, then I'll start tracking all this stuff about it. So first I just put in how many basics there are and what the expected mulligan percentage is, and I get that by Googling something like Pokemon mulligan math. You'll have to toy around with some of the keywords, but that's basically what we're trying to look for. You might need the word percentage or something, but it'll take you to an article that I think it was a 60 cards article or maybe a 6 prizes. Anyway, article that talks about the math behind getting the cards you want in Pokemon. And they'll have a section, maybe 2/3 of the way down, that gives it just a table of how many copies of the card you play, how likely it is that you're going to get it or miss it. You might have to do the reverse math thing. But anyway, from that you can just basically look up and find the expected percentage of mulligans per number of basics. If you play 10 basics, you're going to get mulligans about 25% of the time in the long run. If you play 11, it drops down to 22. If you play 12, it drops all the way down to 19%. And if you're at 9, I think it's like 28, 29%, and then it obviously increases further. So that just helps me evaluate, how often the deck should be seeing mulligans versus how many mulligans I'm seeing to sort of judge if my opponents are going to get as many extra cards, if the deck's running a little bit below what it should be. Then I also track how often I'm going first, whether I won or lost, of course to feed into the mulligan percentage, how many mulligans I got, which deck I was facing, and then what my starting hand was anytime that I can manage to get all that information down. Then if I'm able to figure out my prizes, if I take the time for it, I'll note them as well, and then also note what any key insights about the match, especially if it's sort of like, oh well, this is why I lost. Like you can see here, I prized 2 Gardes, and I didn't get a draw supporter until my opponent, obviously you can't see the whole comment, but my opponent was down to having 3 prizes left. So that's going to be a rough game. But anyway, the second half of this spreadsheet is the companion sheet, that pulls in the numbers, each deck that was played, the number of occurrences it had, so the overall percentage of the meta that I've faced, and then my wins versus losses, and what that makes my win rate. So we can see, looking through here, that there's only one deck that I'm really doing below par with, and that's Buzzwole Lycanroc. However, that makes up 12% of the meta, so that makes up a big chunk. You see lots of other sort of stuff here, but we can also sort of gather in and look at some of the other decks that are seeing play, and we're doing really well against a lot of them. But it just overall can give you a feel for how your deck is doing against the decks you're likely to face. You can kind of find decks that maybe you don't think are likely to be played. Obviously, Ninetales Rayquaza is a weird deck that you aren't going to face, so how you do in that matchup isn't going to matter much. But I just take all of this information and sort of roll it around in my head and decide if that's the deck that I want to go with for any kind of actual tournament that I'm playing. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the deck list. So we can see kind of a standard Gardevoir build. We are using Alolan Vulpix in this build, but things will get more interesting, trust me. The one thing I want to highlight here, I guess a couple things. No Sylveon. That's actually slower than what I think we can accomplish. And we're playing 2 of the Psychic type of Ralts. I think 2 is the minimum for today's world. I think if you want to just play 4 of them until they rotate, that's probably worthwhile. The only downside is if you face a lot of Espeon, because while you can 2-hit KO them with this Ralts, and we'll talk about that in a second, they can 1-hit KO you with their 1 energy attack. So it may not be a trade-off that's, in your favor. But you can 2-hit KO them. All you need is a DCE and a Choice Band, and then you'll hit for 100 against Espeon, but more importantly against Buzzwole. So you can 2-hit KO a Buzzwole with a 60 HP basic that only gives 1 prize, and they have to, it's pretty common that they can hit a strong energy in either a Regirock or a Fighting Fury Belt, but they have to hit those things. So if they don't, you can get a 2-hit KO on them, and they don't even get a 1-hit KO on you. It's a pretty good trade-off, and definitely makes it worth playing this one. Again, the more Buzzwole you see, the more I would play this Ralts. If your meta were somehow exclusively Espeon, you might want to play a mix. Other thing we have in here currently is 2 of the Psychic type Kirlias. Here, if you flip coins well, you could actually hit up to 180. You're going to average hitting for 120, so it's barely better than the Ralts. But you do have 80 hit points, so that can make you live an extra turn too. And then, of course, we evolve up into Gardevoir. We've already talked about Gardevoir. Secret Spring, yay. Infinite Force, yay. Hit hard. Twilight GX, yay. Get some cards back. Also evolve up into Gallade with Premonition ability to stack your deck. We play 3 Leles. We play Alolan Vulpix for our, primarily when we're going second, our turn 1 attack. That's the main reason we want him. And then we play a 2/2 line of Octillery for draw. The one thing I'll note is if space gets tight, you can cut down on Kirlia. You can cut down to 1 copy. You can even, the deck even works with 0 copies. I've gone to 0 copies in the version I'm running right now because I wanted to make room for more Field Blowers. Like I said, Garb was making me mad. But that's not the list I ran with in the tournament. I don't know if it's optimal or not because theoretically you have to hit rare candies more. But we'll go ahead, expand the deck out and look at the rest of it. So this version I was only playing 1 Field Blower plus puzzles. Playing more is gonna work better in a meta where you need them. Like I said, I've rebuilt the deck in a version. I can show you the new version I'm playing just for comparison purposes. Basically, I dropped Kirlia, added Field Blowers. Dropped Pal Pad, added a Field Blower. Took out a couple other things, added another Rare Candy. I think I dropped Rescue Stretcher because we're playing puzzles anyway, so if we have to, we can get it back that way. Might have dropped Switch to play my own stadiums, to play 2 Parallel City and a Fairy Garden on my end, because it's fun being able to prevent them from paralleling you by paralleling them. And then the other thing that looks a little weird here, obviously the puzzles are great. The Professor's Letter, letting you get the energy when you need it, awesome. Either of those combined with Skyla, really good. We have a Switch, that combined with Skyla and combined with the puzzles, great. And then we have the standard 2 Brigets. We're playing 2 Cynthia, and that's just a replacement. The original sort of build on this concept actually played 2 in and 2 Sycamore. We dropped 1 of each to get 2 Cynthia. I don't know that that's optimal, but it's worked pretty well. We're playing 3 Guzma. You could possibly even drop this down, especially with Pal Pad in there, and with Puzzles of Time. And then we're playing, of course, the 3 Skyla. That is sort of the backbone behind the deck, trying to help you get things evolved as quickly as possible. I've thought about dropping this to a 2 count and putting in a Mallow, so that if you have Octillery set up, you could at times get 2 cards off of it of your choice instead of just 1. Haven't tested that yet though. Then we have 2 Choice Bands just to help our damage, and then some energy. I've got a Super Boost Energy in here. It can be helpful. It can boost your damage a lot. You can jump up by potentially, if you get a Secret Spring, well, if you have, for it to work, you have to have 2 Gardevoirs in place, right? And then like a Gallade. So you can get 2 Secret Springs for 60 boost to your damage. Super Boost Energy for another 120, so we're at 180, and then a Choice Band for potentially adding 210 damage on top of whatever energy your opponent has in 1 turn. That's a very powerful thing. In my testing, it did swing a couple of matches. However, most of the time, if you're in a place for that to matter, your opponent has basically already lost, and it's just a win more card. So I don't think it's necessary, and it also decreases the frequency of being able to Secret Spring because you're playing 1 less energy. We make up for that a little bit with the Professor's Letter, but playing 8 energy obviously is going to mean you're going to be able to Secret Spring more. Okay, so now I will flip over and take a look at the newest build that I'm looking at. Again, this is not finalized at all. But if we spread it out, we'll just touch on the changes I made. First of all, added a Clefairy because Clefairy is overpowered in the current meta. If you have a way to accelerate energy onto Clefairy in any deck, I suggest doing, especially a deck that plays DCE, because you can 1-8 KO so many things by just using their same attack back at them. It works great for the mirror match, it works great against Buzzwole. You can use Buzzwole's GX, or you can use Knuckle Impact if you can find a Choice Band. It's really strong, so highly recommend Clefairy. Then we dropped the Kirlia line completely, and we're just relying on Rare Candy and Skyla. I think that's fine. I haven't had any problems with it, and I haven't changed over, but I may change over really soon. Actually, I'll do it right now. To change to a 4 of. Look, it makes the list look so much cleaner. Just having 4 of the Psychic Vaults for the reasons we talked about. The rest of this looks pretty similar until we get to Field Blowers. I'm playing 4 Field Blowers currently. That might be a little bit overkill, but I want to have Field Blowers ready. I'm tired of having issues with Garbotoxin, so I want to be able to just, they get in place turn 2, I blow it away on turn 2 or turn 3. They get Parallel City in place, I blow it away so I can do my Bridget. I want that option. I'm also playing, I added in stadiums a fairy garden as a counter stadium to Parallel City, and 2 of my own Parallel Cities, so I can place those down to prevent, like, yes, we get a benefit of disrupting our opponent, but more it's to prevent them from being able to parallel us, right? We preemptively stop it. And other than that, you can see the support account basically is the same. We ended up dropping a Skyla, which I'm not in love with, but just to try to make room. And we didn't end up upping the Rare Candy, which I wish we had room to up that, given that we aren't playing any Kirlias now. But I haven't found the room yet. It could be that I'll end up dropping a Field Blower for one of those 2 cards, or for a Mallow, as we talked about. And you can see we dropped the Super Boost Energy, and we're at upped the fairy back to 8, and we dropped the Professor's Letter. There's an argument that maybe dropping this down to 7 and adding in that Professor's Letter is better. It's something that I'll probably test in the coming months. But this is where I'm at currently with the list. And something probably in between this and the list we just looked over is where I'm going to land for the current meta. And I'll let you know. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap things up for today. I apologize for the video being kind of short and not having much content other than the deck lists, but hopefully, you know, those are useful. Hopefully the other tools that we threw in can be helpful. And frankly, I've needed the time this week to do some testing for tournaments I'm playing online and in real life. It's kept me quite busy during evenings, but we'll go ahead, like I said, wrap up. I will be back with another video for tomorrow to try to make up for this. We're not having the normal break period, but other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Signing off for today, and please remember to like, comment, and subscribe as appropriate.